Okay, I think we're live. Everything says red, and my fans are going crazy, so I'm gonna guess that's a yes. There's a wave in chat if you can see me and hear me. Hey Mark. And LaShawn. Well, this is an incredibly weird experience. Doesn't look too far behind at the moment. Got fairly low latency, but I'm still going to be talking to you in the past, which is a bit weird. Got the obligatory matrix wallpaper going on the terminal, of course. Cool. So yeah, like I say, very weird. Going to be taking you through a very crash course in Laravel. Hopefully, with a tap of a button, you should now be seeing a Chrome window. No? Try that one. There we go. So yeah, Laravel, my go-to framework. Ah, and I've just spotted it's changed again. Hang on a minute. There we go. Right, it's definitely on Chrome now. Right. Yeah, Laravel, my go-to framework of choice. Been building in it since, I don't know, to be honest, 2014, somewhere in that region professionally. Huge ecosystem, very much driven by the guys at Laravel. So Taylor Otwell and the team around him. Recent launch of Vapor, which is incredibly exciting. It's a serverless platform, but they also offer for a while now Forge and Envoyer, which are also Laravel hosting systems. And a whole bunch of other packages as well you can see in front of you. We won't be exploring too many of them. Mix, perhaps, which is a Webpack asset compilation. It's just basically an extension of Webpack geared up to Laravel. Comes with some helpful helpers, even is the word I'm looking for building out themes and stuff and calling in those compiled assets. Cashier, Passport, Scout, all really just handy, nice to haves on top of Laravel. Most of these are free as well, except for Nova, perhaps, I think is a licensed product. That's an administration panel I kind of lean on quite regularly if you're looking to build kind of a CRUD system with an administration area. Laravel Nova is probably your go-to. Echo, providing real-time events, Socket.io, WebSockets. Lumen, if you don't want the big highfalutin all of Laravel, you can go for a micro version of Laravel with Lumen. And I'm just trying to look on here now for, yeah, there we go, Spark, which is a pretty impressive package for basically scaffolding the entirety of a SaaS app. So providing, still on Bootstrap 4, Laravel is now making this the move to Tailwind. Localization, per seat pricing, all of the subscription niceties, Stripe or Molly built in, authentication, teams, team billing, invoices, impersonation, you can see it all here, spark.laravel.com. But yeah, like I say, it's going to be a very much a from scratch, fairly bare bones Laravel build. We're going to be building a tag journal, and for want of a better phrase perhaps, but basically it's a way of journaling with tags. So instead of Dear Diary, it's very much a perhaps a fairly developer centric diary in which you just tag what happened on a daily basis, and those tags can have a value of a number, that's it. So perhaps you went for a run for 6 miles. I don't know if that's a long run, I don't run. Maybe you went for a bike ride for 14 miles, but you can tap in 14 there. Perhaps rate things out of 10, that sort of thing. as has been hinted at, there are a few moments for some interactivity or some choice. So a big part or a big request has been to do some continuous integration. So we can do that with a whole host of services. Some of them are geared up specifically for Laravel. I mentioned Vapor. We could also use Forge or Envoyer. Or we can go, to be honest, my usual route is directly onto a server with rsync, like from the old days. So we can do that via, like I say, any platform. We can do the rsync cloning it, or rsync pushing it, to a server with BitBucket pipelines or GitHub Actions or GitLab. We could deploy it to Vapor, although my bank balance would prefer you didn't say that option, or Forge and Envoyer. Again, they're fairly inexpensive. Reasons for not going with Vapor is it's AWS serverless and requires a fairly expensive database. I think it starts at around about $45 a month. So for a little live stream project, that might be a little bit exaggerated. But yeah, points or shout out in chat. I don't know whether I can do a poll or something, possibly. No, it doesn't look like it. So yeah, shout outs in chat as to which you would like, and perhaps maybe I need to go over those a little bit more in order to make you familiar with what exactly I'm talking about. We're going to be building up a Docker development environment. So an environment to, well, as you'll see in a moment, I basically don't have anything installed on my laptop natively, I guess is the directly, one of those words. I use Docker for pretty much everything, including running the composer commands themselves. I think on my actual laptop, development-wise, I have Node installed. I think that's about it. And obviously a text editor, which we will be using Sublime, much to some disgust and maybe some love. You never know. I like it because it's nice and simple, nice and quick and speedy. And I can get it. Oh, I've been using it for Simon's already saying the no love. That's a good sign. It means the latency is not too bad on the YouTube video. I had a go earlier and I was about 40 seconds behind, which was horrific. But yeah, no love for Sublime. Hey, Simon. Do you have a preference? You can't say you don't. Right, okay. Okay. I mean, we could use VS Code, but I'm not going to, because it's already a pretty nerve-wracking experience sitting here staring at my own monitor and talking. And replace that with an already nerve-wracking experience of using a different text editor, and yeah, that's a recipe for disaster. Anyway, I'm going to stop chatting away and get to it. Looks like my little matrix thing has just crashed in the background. Fantastic. So we'll close that, and we'll do the usual hopping around of finding out which buttons I bound everything to, which I can't remember now. I'm just going to go back to OBS and click it because that's easier. There we go. Right, so a nice and large should be for your terminal with my face even bigger. Big face. Right, cool. So as with everything, you start in the terminal. Laravel itself can be installed with Composer, which is basically the de facto, that's the word I'm looking for, de facto package manager for PHP. To be honest, I'm not even too sure if there is any others. There probably is floating around, but Composer seems to have won that battle. So we can use a handy feature of Composer, which is the create project command. It uses a boilerplate or a template basically to create a project with. Really nice and easy. We will say we prefer the distribution copy, and we will point it at the Laravel template, and we will give it a directory name. One thing I've obviously forgotten to tell you is the name of the project. It's Hablytics, a mashup of habits and analytics. There is a domain. which I scrambled to get set up about 15 minutes before this call. It's there. It might start resolving at some point with a coming soon page. That's currently just pointing at my cPanel WHM server. So we will create a project called Hablytics, kickoff composer. Here we go, creating a Laravel project at Hablytics, and with a little bit of luck, here we go. So I mentioned Composer and PHP are not installed on my laptop. So getting Composer installed, domain resolves. Getting Composer installed on your local machine. There's a plethora of ways of doing it. I'm on Linux myself, and like I say, I'm using it with Docker Compose. There is a load of instructions online for getting Composer installed. If you need help with that, give us a shout in chat, I guess. Not too sure if this is a follow-along tutorial or not. If anyone wants to follow along, give us a shout, I guess, and let me know if I'm going too fast. But getting a Composer installed is fairly simple. I have it installed via Docker if I ask my terminal now, which Composer, as in, if you were to do that with something else, it would give you a path, but for this particular instance, it's going to give me a function, a bash function, which you will see runs a Docker image interactively, binds it to my current user, grabs my volumes that it needs. I could also add a cache directory if we wished to this, and then it mounts my local directory and runs Composer with the command I've passed to it. So it's an incredibly convoluted way of running Composer, but it does mean that I don't have to manage a PHP installation and all of the wonderful things that come with that on my local machine. Also means I can use whatever version of Composer and PHP I like. Usually as well, once the development environment's created, which we will do in a moment. We've downloaded, excellent. Once the development environment's been created, that will also be Docker Compose, and those Composer commands will then be relegated or renegated to the actual Docker image you're using for development. So this image kind of just hangs about, boots up, installs Composer, and gets out of the way for me. So that's pretty helpful. So we should now have a Hablytics directory. So we'll just change to that directory, and we can see the default installation of a Laravel app. So let's get that in Sublime. And again, I'm going to flip back to OBS because I don't trust it with these shortcuts. You should now be able to see Sublime. I'm going to have a check on the YouTube video. There, nice, excellent. So, open up this folder in Sublime, which I can't do. Hang on a minute. There we go. And boom. It's open. Excellent. So, quick tour of Laravel. When you first launch the application or first create a Laravel project, you'll find yourselves with an app directory. This is where your nitties and gritties of your application logic go, most of your PHP, your providers, your models, go in your app directory. We will then find a config directory, which, fairly self-explanatory, contains configuration. You did not miss the Docker part, Chris, don't worry. Just gonna quick tour of Laravel itself, and then I'll cover Docker. So, configuration, all broken up into sections, all the different areas of configuration within Laravel. Now, some of these, or in fact most of these, will use a helper called env, and you can pass an environmental parameter key, environmental key to env, and optionally pass it default. And this will go and look at your loaded .env file here. So in here, we will find a bunch of default declarations for my environmental variables. And this is how you can control configuration between several servers, UAT, production, staging, your own system locally. Usually bundled in with it, you'll have an env.example. And this is where I like to basically guide a new developer, somebody who's picking up your project. Here's where I keep a track of my environmental variables that are kind of, well, basically hints, type hints. So the .env file will be git ignored in here, we'll see. So that will never make it up to your repo, so you're good to put all of your secrets in here, for example, your pusher secrets and AWS access secrets, database connection secrets, and these will all get picked up within your configuration. So inside of database, for example, we can see we're calling in that DB connection, and that DB connection is defined here. It also does have a default, so it will also fall back to MySQL if it's not defined. So that can kind of yes, I can, Chris, but in a delightful way that involves opening up my preference file. So bear with, I'll do that in a moment. Is it helpful if I... probably not. Leave that up. Sorry, Chris is commenting the scaling of the directory panel is a little bit small. I did play around with that, but I didn't put it on before the stream, so apologies. If it's too much of a problem, I'll give you a shout what I'm looking at, I guess. Probably going to degrade with my terrible internet connection, but we'll see where we get. The environmental variables that are pulled into the config are available with a similar helper called config. And this will get it from a dot-based system. So if you're looking for a configuration file from app, you can do app. And then if you were looking for the name, you can do app.name. This will grab out the configured variable from app name, and app name will have grabbed its configurable variable from either the environment or this default here. So it's kind of a cascade, sort of, I guess. These configuration files are all automatically loaded. If you like, you can create your own one, follow the same syntax of just returning an array from it, and Bob's your uncle, you should have a new configuration top level variable which you can chuck a load of your own application variables into. Also, you'll find that a lot of plugins for Laravel packages will also publish their own configuration variables to this area. Things like Nova, for example, that I mentioned before for configuring the administration panel in Nova. The database folder, which contains your factories, migrations, and seeds. Don't worry, I will go over those three areas of your database when we get to it fairly soon, to be fair. That's kind of a first-ditched effort. And then we have our public directory. Now, when hosting a Laravel app, you do not host the entire directory. You point at the public directory. And the public's index.php file will, as we can see, reference files below its hosted area. Bit of a security feature, essentially. But also, we will publish our compiled JavaScript or CSS or any assets to this public directory. Laravel also ships with a bunch of commands for managing that and maintaining that. Though that public directory is usually spawned from your resources directory, so you'll find a JS file and a SAS directory. Chris will be happy, maybe. There's no CSS directory, I think is what I was getting at. Default for this is going to refer to that mix, Laravel mix. So down the bottom here, we've got a webpack.mix file. I will cover this probably a little bit later, part 2 or part 3 of the, the main font size? Oh, yeah, I can do the directory. Right, that's the second, right, bear with, one moment. It's not the easiest of things to do. And I've probably forgotten the key name for it as well. Can you guys see the, no. there's a key for it. 1 second, sorry, hang on. Sublime, increase, font size, sidebar. The directories, not just the text. Hang on. File sidebar. Here we go. No, it's this thing. Label control. Helps if I spell label right. No. It helps if the Windows PC doesn't die on me while I'm trying to quickly look up Sublime docs. Bear with. If anyone's able to grab that key and chuck it in the YouTube chat, it would be brilliant. There's a key for sidebar font size. Sublime. Increase font size on sidebar. Here it is. Class sidebar label. Your preferred font size. And it goes in here. See what I mean? It does not. No, doesn't like that. Right. Is this where everyone yells? Yeah, I was going to say, is this where everyone yells, do it in VS Code? All right. Hang on a minute. That means setting up, resetting up my OBS and also consuming a good 10 gigs of RAM for VS Code, of course. Right. Sublime is closed. Yeah. Chris is all too aware of what the damage. Yeah, I'm gonna stick to what I know. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've been using Sublime for. Oh god, when you start thinking about these things, it's horrible. Like 10 years, easily, something like that. Yeah, and I don't use anything else. I think I used PHP Storm for not PHP Storm, whatever the Node.js one is. Dom will probably give us a shout. The IntelliJ one, I used that for a year and hated almost every minute of that. Yeah, I can't get away from Sublime. Sorry, right. I will fix the font size of the sidebar for the next part of this. I'm rabbiting on and just very conscious of the time. So, I will give you a shout as to what I'm hovering over. Boo from Simon. Okay. I tell you what, Simon, if you find me a decent guide, hang on a minute. Right, good. Package dev. Control-Shift-P, edit current theme. Edit current theme. I swear I did this the other day. You have to edit the theme that you're using, which is a bit annoying. Edit current theme. There it is. Edit current theme. And then in here we are going to find the sidebar label. Brilliant, which it says it can't find in there. There it is. And we're going to copy that over here and stick it somewhere in this bunch of rules. I've just realised I got really close to the camera there. You don't want my face that close. I think I stick it here. Although it doesn't like it. there. Then the problem is it doesn't work until you've restarted. One sec. No idea if it's got bigger. No. Brilliant. Oh, how's that? I mean, beyond being ugly. Can you see that all right? Oh, is it even streaming it? No? God damn it. Sublime. Properties. Don't pick my XFCE panel. Where is it? This one. Right, you see that? He said ominously. Hey, how's that? It's like a few pixels bigger. and slightly uglier. Awesome. Right, so where were we? I was covering resources and Mix. So Laravel Mix, like I mentioned, a Webpack extension. It's alright. I don't use it a great deal, but it will compile built-in SAS and JS directories from here, slap them in your public directory, and if you want to, I think you can do version, and it will stick a Webpack manifest file in there for you, so it will add a load of IDs to those files, and then you can use a really handy mix helper, which will grab you the versioned version of a file in your public directory. So you can say, I want the versioned version of app.js, and it will just give you a path to that in your theme. Cool. Storage directory, basically ignore it. It's dynamic. It's the directory that app stuff gets stored in, framework, logs, etc. And we will see this. I say ignore it. We will be looking in the logs directory, I'm sure, quite regularly. A tests directory. Now here comes the moment of potential fracturing of the group. I won't be covering testing in this. I will be covering factories which help in testing, but I made the executive decision to not do unit testing. I do usually write unit tests for production code, but for the purposes of this and for the purposes of 4 2-hour sprints, which we're already ramming through right now, I figure we are going to favour building the app at the moment. We can use a few tools to help testing, help like prototyping and stuff, and playing around with our app once it's there. Something called Tinker. So we'll be using that to just kind of experiment. Chant infinite TDD chant. Oh, I get it. Yeah, so we won't, but we can. There's a test directory. PHP unit is all installed, set up. It's been, yeah, all good. You can run it with an artisan command. Yeah. I'll cover it another time if there's call for it, of course. After you've watched me write a load of horrific Laravel code, you'll probably be wishing I'd been writing some PHP unit tests. Right. Docker. So how many people are familiar with Docker? He says to 6 people. Little bit experienced, never used it, no idea what it is. Not really. No idea what it is, or no idea you've used it? Cool, okay. And VMs, virtual machines. Has anybody used a virtual machine? That's a good start, Simon. Aha. Homestead. So this is again where we begin to perhaps fracture the group again. I'm running on Linux, opinions aside, I use Docker. There are alternatives on Laravel's website itself. Let me see if I can get the Chrome page up again. So you should be able to see my Chrome page. The Laravel ecosystem. There's Homestead, and there is another one as well, Valet. Homestead is a prepackaged Vagrant box, as it says. So it's just a Vagrant box that you can boot up, use to your desire. Valet, I think, again, I haven't used these because I don't really need to. Yeah, here we go. Valet or Homestead. So I think, yeah, Valet requires you to set up PHP and a database server. Homestead is an all-in-one jobby. So yeah, it's up to you basically. Homestead is probably the easiest, I'd imagine. Certainly on Mac. To be honest, Mac and Windows. You're probably your only bet with Windows is perhaps Homestead. I don't know. You can get PHP installed on Windows, so you might be able to do that with Valet. But we'll be, like I say, using Docker. So Docker, and again, my knowledge with Mac might be a little bit out of date. I think they've made some leaps forward, perhaps. But Docker on Linux is a containerized environment, so it's. I'm not the best person to describe this. I use it. I don't know what it is per se, but it's a containerized environment wherein applications are running inside of a container, which is kind of running on your computer. It's an extra computer that's kind of on top of your existing computer. Good God, I should have probably written a little intro to Docker, or at least read one perhaps before attempting this. So have a look around. Dom Davis is probably one of the best people to describe what a Docker image is, and he uses Mac, so it must be alright on Mac. We'll be using a Docker image. It's fairly similar to a virtual machine in that it is running on your computer. It is a container. It is silo of stuff. We configure it. Now we can either use a Docker file and effectively write a installation script. So let's have, you're still seeing it, yeah. One of my go-tos is one by here it is, Laurie Schleifer. Sorry, basically, for completely butchering your name, I'm sure, but yeah, Laurie Schleifer, maybe? Oh, Brighton, Loris Lelver, there we go. So Loris, thank you. I've been using this image for quite some time now. We have a 7.3 and a 7.4 image, so that's PHP 7.4. In here, you will find the Docker file, and this is the basis of a Docker image. And within this, the first line, I might need to increase the L size on that, I reckon. That's a bit better. Look at the tiny preview I've got up the top here. This is a Docker file. Contained within is a bunch of instructions that start with these one-line commands, or one-word commands, sorry. This first one established that this Docker file is actually based upon another Docker file. So it's based upon PHP 7.4 Alpine. We pop that into Google and load up the Docker Hub for the PHP 7.4 image. This is again another Docker file. We might be able to find a link to the actual Docker file somewhere around here, but they are far and hard between. I don't know. But this will be again another Docker file, and perhaps it's based on Alpine, so it will be from Alpine to onwards. We then have within here a bunch of commands that effectively takes that Docker file PHP 7.4 Alpine and adds a load of stuff that we need on top of it. So first of all, it's going to install with APK, which is the package manager for whatever images this is based on. I don't know. They come with a bunch of flavors: apt-get, pacman, you may have all seen. Aptitude, apt-get is obviously the familiar one on Ubuntu. That's the one I use on my Ubuntu system. This one uses APK. It will add a bunch of packages that it requires for build time. In this particular instance, it uses a kind of cool flag called virtual. I think this is beyond the scope of this talk today, or this introduction. It will then install needed software for getting PHP running. So we're seeing familiar things in here: iMagick, libpng, libzip, MySQL clients, Node.js for the mix, Laravel mix stuff, Yarn. Chris, shout out for Yarn in here, look. Yeah, nice. OpenSSH client, not too sure why. I guess from deploying from within this image, and rsync as well for deploying within this image. This image is geared up for continuous integration, not so much geared up for local development, but it's pretty lightweight. Does the job. Couple of PECL and pair extensions for PHP. Using a special PHP X enable app script that's available in Alpine. It then enables those. Configure, again using one of those handy helpers instead of having to write 4 or 5 commands or whatever to get it configured. Just pass it to this. And then install a bunch of PHP modules, so BCMath, calendars, curlings, MB strings, iConvert for images, I believe, PDO drivers, etc. Zip, all important. Composer, which as I've just covered upon in brief. This is the package manager for Laravel. And it's what I was referring to earlier when I say most Docker images, once you've got the development environment installed, they'll have the Composer package installed within it. PHP CS, which is PHP's version of kind of ESLint. It's a code sniffer, so we can enable that with certain levels of PSR. PHP standards, something probably stands for. And then I quickly touched on it earlier, but this is one of the cool features of APK. You can install a bunch of things within a namespace. So these have all been installed under build deps. It will keep a diff of it essentially, and then you can say down the bottom here, remove everything that you installed as part of build deps, basically, because those packages are only required in order to package up and install some of these that follow. They're not actually needed once that make process is run, once that's compiled. And then the final declaration of this package, of this Docker file, is a work directory. Pretty self-explanatory, but this is the directory that commands will go to by default. It's also the directory you'll find yourself in if you open up the Docker image, if you connect to Bash, I think. Yeah. Now there is one command missing from this, or in fact a whole bunch of stuff missing from this image that you would usually get with a Laravel image, and that's Apache, Nginx or something, and some kind of statement here to keep the server running, to keep this Docker image running. So this Docker image is aimed at, as it says in the introduction, it's aimed at building and testing for within your pipelines. So BitBucket pipelines, the things I was mentioning earlier. This is geared up to doing exactly that. However, because Laravel ships with a pretty handy command, which is the artisan serve command, it will actually serve itself fairly, well, perfectly adequately in a development environment. So all we actually need to do is grab this Docker image. It will set up the bulk of PHP requirements, and then we can just ask Laravel just at the end of that to serve using Artisan, and that will keep the image alive and get our Laravel application hosted. So I'm sure that was the most awful introduction to Docker, but like I say, you're meant to put a sarcasm tag at the end of that, Simon. So we will get started. So Docker, like I say, we can use a Docker file. However, there is also something else. There's quite a few. There's another alternative for launching that Docker image, and that is using Docker Compose. Docker Compose allows you to compose several Docker files together in a collection, and say, actually, this Docker image should be able to talk to this Docker image, and this Docker image is called MySQL, and this one's linked to this one, and they should all boot up together. You should manage them together, and they belong to this one project. So we're going to create a Docker Compose file because we also need some additional images. So we will also need MySQL. So if I pop along to the installation guide on Laravel, you'll see there's a list of PHP extensions that we require, and some of these you'll be noticing from that Loris. We'll call it Loris, sorry, Loris Leber. Loris. We're in his Docker image, so PHP greater than 7.2 for Laravel 7. BC Math, C type, file info, JSON, etc., etc., etc. You can read. We've already used the Laravel, we haven't used the Laravel installer in this instance because I don't have Composer installed on my computer. So if you have Composer installed on your computer, you can install the globally required, bit better, font size. You can install the Laravel installer, which gives you a nice handy command to just say Laravel new, and this is your directory name, your project name. We use the Composer Create project. It's kind of the more traditional way of doing it. It uses a boilerplate, and we've again, our name at the end, we've called ours Habalytics. Here's what I was then referring to. So this is the PHP Artisan serve command, and PHP Artisan, this is the PHP interpreter. It should interpret the Artisan file, and we'll cover that in a moment, and it should send it the serve command. And as you can see here, it'll boot up a nice development server at port 8000. So, with a little bit of luck, let's establish that now. We will come back to our project, and I'm going to have to flip over to OBS and change it because I just don't trust my... I bound basically the three things you've seen. So you've got the code one, which is not loading because Linux, and you've got the terminal one, and I've bound these to some combination of F1, F2, and F3. I honestly couldn't tell you which way around that is at the moment because it was a last minute thing that I realized I could do at the last minute. So we will go over to our code screen, which is showing the wrong code Sublime text window. Hopefully it will update with a little bit of luck if I close this one. Any joy? Yeah, there we go. We should be able to see those PHP unit tests as we did before. Brilliant. Okay. So like I say, we need that Docker Compose file. So we will come to the root of our project, and perhaps I'll do this in terminal because it's a little bit larger, a little bit easier to read perhaps. I can actually zoom in. So we will create a Docker Compose .yaml file. This needs to be in the root of your project. Actually, it doesn't need to be in your root of your project, to be fair. It just needs to be somewhere where you can go to it and reference it. Once that's created, we will open it up in our Sublime window, and we're going to set, oh blimey, here we go. I've honestly never written a Docker Compose file from scratch, so this should be pretty amusing. We have a services key. This defines our list of services. The key for each of these services is the name for our service. So we want a www service, and that will be the name of our main container that will carry our PHP application. We will give it an image. So we're going to say we want to use that Docker Loris's image, which I'm desperately searching for the key, which he hasn't put on the home page, which is a little bit annoying. Here we go. I've got it, don't panic. Right. It's Loris's Laravel-Docker image, and we'll target a 7.3 version of that. This next line is somewhat Linux specific, but we're going to pass it a user variable, and this maps to my user on my local system. So when dealing with Linux, we are going to be mounting some volumes. We're going to be mounting my local folder, a local directory, onto the Docker image, and the permissions for those permissions for those file directories need to match, because either I'm going to create a file on my Linux computer, on my Linux machine, my actual Ubuntu installation, and the Docker image is going to go, but can't open that, or I'm going to create a file on the Docker image, and my PC is going to go, you need root. What is this? No idea. So this just sets that up and says I want to run as user 1000 in group 1000, and that matches my local environment. Like I say, we are then going to mount some volumes from our local machine. So this follows the pattern of your local directory with a colon and the directory you want to mount it on the Docker image. We are going to mount the current directory, of dot, because that references the current directory. You could also pass in pwd, the environmental variable, I think it's an environmental variable of pwd, to get your present working directory. But this is where I was referring to, where you place your Docker Compose file is quite important. So wherever it is, that volume declaration needs to match. So if you're going to put this in kind of maybe a resource, not a resources folder, but some kind of other folder within here, then you need to reference ... We're then going to say where we want it on this particular image. Now it doesn't particularly matter, but we did notice that in the Loris image, the work directory was var www. So we will stick it in there, like so. Job's a good one. Almost. We need to tell it that we're going to expose some ports. And what are those ports going to be? Well, we refer to the artisan serve command. It will tell us the port's going to be 8000. We can tell artisan to post it somewhere else if we like, but that'll do. 8000 on the Docker image is going to be 8000 on my local image, on my local machine. And this will allow me to talk to the Docker image as if I was talking to my local machine. We could drop this requirement and reference the Docker image directly. However, this will allow us to perhaps visit on another computer on the network. So if I wanted to visit it from my phone, I can reference 8000 on my laptop on the local network and be redirected to the Docker image that's running underneath. Okay, so I said that we would like multiple images. That second image, for now, is going to be our main database. So we are going to use MySQL. no particular reasons. It's just what I've always used, to be honest. We are going to use, in actual fact, MariaDB. And a quick segue to say, if you'd like to see what's new in 10.5, there's a video in the Nordev channel. Don't leave now and watch it, obviously. But there is a video by Rich with an introduction to all the new features of 10.5. Rich is a local MariaDB employee. It's crazy. I think there was 2 in Norfolk building MariaDB. It's always weird when like huge names like that, and then you're like, wait, they're building it in Norwich. I think Vercel, somebody from Vercel, Sean, didn't you say? Anyway, right, getting sidetracked. MySQL, we're going to use MariaDB. Specifically, we're going to use a image built by Bitnami. They release a regular image for the latest version of MariaDB, and all of the versions. So I think for this particular instance, we're not going to go for the newest and most up to date. We won't go with 10.5 quite yet. No, we'll go with 10.4 because I've used it before and it worked the last time. I believe that is about it. The only extra things we now need to do is instruct these images to set themselves up. So the Bitnami MariaDB comes with some environmental variables. So let's go quickly look those up. You should be able to see my Chrome window now. If we pop in Bitnami MariaDB, and with a little bit of luck, the environmental variables will just be right on this page somewhere. Here we go, configuration. And here we go, the MariaDB root user and the root password. Allowing empty passwords as well. This is a local Docker image, so we can get away with being a little less secure. So usually what I will do is allow empty passwords. So we'll grab that environmental variable and we'll put those in a key called, blow your mind now, environment. And it follows again with these dashes. It's YAML. So we've got a list here. And we're going to paste in the environmental variable we want and then pass to it the value. Yes, pretty simple. If you'd like to pass an environmental variable from your own environment, leave off the equals at the end. I'm pretty sure anyway. Leave off the equals at the end and it will just use whatever your environmental variable is set on the machine. So if we were to just use this, it says basically pass along my environment. I think you can also pass an instruction from a .env or tell it where a .env file is, and it will. Oh, blimey! Thanks, Kev. How's that? First time streaming, going well, going well. You should be able to see it in a moment. There we go. Excellent. So passing on a variable. Sorry. I'll get to where I was just before I said that. So, passing a variable, you can pass it in with a value like this, drop the value, and somebody's probably going to correct me in live chat, but I'm pretty certain that this will take the environmental variable from your local machine or the environment you've launched it in anyway, and pass that on to the Docker image, because by default they're not actually available your local environment. We will then tell it that we want a MariaDB user. We don't want a root user. Here we go. Getting a database user on the first run. So if you pass it some variables, if it doesn't already have if it hasn't already started, it stores a little flag to say, you know, first time launch has already happened, something along those lines. If you pass these flags to it at that start, that first initial launch, though, it will set up all of these for you. So if we pass it a MariaDB user, a MariaDB, I'm calling it MariaDB password, and a MariaDB database, it will create all of those for us. So we'll pass along a MariaDB. Again, I'm referencing variables that are on my Chrome window that you can't see. I've just realized, so apologies for that. But you get the point. We're going to create a MariaDB user. We're going to create a MariaDB password. And we're going to set that to the nice and secure same name as the project. Excellent. MariaDB. Oops, spell Mardi. I promise you I haven't got Mardi Gras in my mind. MariaDB, and we want to, I think it's database. Yeah, database. There we go. And again, we'll pass Hablytics to it. So now when the Bitnami MariaDB image launches, it's going to allow empty passwords en route. Brilliant. It's going to create as a Hablytics user and with the password that we've provided, and then it's going to create a MariaDB database called Hablytics, and give user with that password permissions to access it. He says, optimistically, staring at it, hoping that this is all that's required. I'm pretty sure we're there. Oh, one final thing. The www image should be able to link to the MySQL image. Oh, not with the wrong name. So we just give it the top level variable. These are its names. I think you can override it by perhaps with a name key. Chris's PR this week was approved without comment. The world must be ending. I mean, I'm streaming, so it could end any moment. For me, anyway. Right, anyway. So, we've got a www and a MySQL image. It's all good, all good. It's an exciting time for you, Chris. Got a www and a MySQL image. That's pretty much all we need to get going. We can include, we can and we will be including some other images later down the line. Redis, and perhaps a queue driver or a queue. As a queue driver. When we approach the bridge of potentially, if we've got time at the end, parallel tasks, jobs, queues, all of which are insanely easy in Laravel, just unbelievably so. I converted an app last week from a synchronous. There was a process that ran in it, and you'd run it. It would chugga through it, and then the PHP script would return. Well, it was a Laravel command would return. I converted the entire thing into a parallel job-based thing, pretty much by just passing it what's called traits, PHP traits, and this enabled it to basically queue all of those classes rather than execute the methods. They all go into the background, and it took me about 4 or 5 hours, I think, to convert a massive process that was synchronous and running on its own to a service that ran parallel with as many workers as you like, basically all over Redis. So if we have time at the end, we will cover that, and we will show how you can offload some of these tasks from your main thread, offload them from your request thread, and do them later. You know, those messages where it's like, yeah, you might see this in 4 hours. Yeah, we'll create that. Awesome. But anyway, let us launch the Docker image. Now, I should have both of these images installed on my local machine already. So we shouldn't have to download them. But if you're doing this yourself, you will need to download both these images. Docker Compose will cover that. It will check that you've got them and download them, pull them the latest version, or pull whatever version you've asked for, and launch it. So, Docker Compose. I guess this is the one other thing I have installed on my computer as a development thing. So, pretty sure it comes with Docker. Don't think you have to install it separately, but do correct me if I'm wrong on that in chat. We have 2 ways of starting this Docker Compose image in the directory we are currently in. So again, if we just list the files in here, we have that Docker Compose file, we are in the Habalytics directory right next door to this, right? So if we ask docker compose ps, gives us current status. Oh, brilliant. Bear with me while my brain just breaks immediately in front of you. Unsupported config option for services W. Oh! We might be missing an important aspect. I can't remember if that needs to be in quotes or as a number. We'll find out in a minute. The version is invalid. It should be a string. There we go. Version 3, I think. Here we go. Yes! Brilliant. It's working. That's a moment there. Right. It's telling us now the status of our Docker Compose. So at the moment, there is nothing running. We can start and stop our images with start and stop. However, the first time we launch it, we will need to use a different command. We'll need to use the up command. And you'll see my terminal, it's already completing a -d. We're actually going to use Docker Compose up. The -d will daemonize it, but for our purposes, for this first launch, let's just launch it with Docker Compose up. Oh, it lied! Here it goes. So I don't have the 7.3 image installed. That's weird. So it's going to go off and grab that. Could have sworn I was using that image yesterday. Maybe I'm using 7.4. All right. So the text is a little bit big. So I'm going to just scroll out a little bit. Hopefully that doesn't... Oh, I'm going to scroll up a bit now again. So we can see our pull is complete. It's downloaded a newer image for... oh, okay, so it's a newer image. Perhaps it's been updated overnight or something. I don't know. Crazy times. Anyway, so 7.3 has been pulled, and it's created our MySQL image, which you can see started to boot here. I already had the MariaDB image, and it's created a WW. So if we just scroll down, we're beginning to see the logs that come out of those containers, and they're prefixed with their names. So MySQL_1, i.e. our one MySQL image, or container, sorry. Welcome. That's a good sign, because you won't see this if it has detected this is not its first launch. I don't think it will anyway. It will start, validate the settings, look, and you've set an environmental variable of allow empty passwords. Do not do this in production. Nice, handy, helpful hint there. So it's now setting the user up, the MariaDB database, creating as a database, starting it in the background. MariaDB is finished, up and running. So here we go, starting to MariaDB. You can see 10.4 still, so we're still seeing those, MySQL names. Again, watch the Rich talk a couple of weeks ago, if you don't know a clue what I'm talking about here. And all the boring logs of booting up, which I'm sure will be judged for calling boring. But MySQL is running. However, if I scroll back up, some of you may have noticed this. I need a little soundboard. Need one of those Stream Deck things that that Dom's just invested in, and I do use the word invest. www has exited with code 0. Great. That's just brilliant, that is. So if we now come over to another terminal, just pop into that directory, Habalytics, and again issue that docker compose ps command, we're going to see that MySQL is up, stay up, and dub is exited. Great. What we need to do is give www service, this www container, a long-running process. At the moment, it's booting up, it's installing everything, and then it gets to the end, and you can see here it just runs php-a, which I think will just drop you into a PHP terminal. But because it's not an interactive session here, because it's a Docker Compose image, it's just gone, well, there's nobody here to type in anything into this window, so see you later. So we need to get it to not do that. And the way to do that is to come into our Docker Compose image again. And I'm pretty sure this is right, but again, I'm going on memory because I purposely have not checked too much before this because I didn't want it to, wanted to be natural. I'm pretty sure if we issue the command key to this, we can ask it to run a command. What command will we run? Well, we're going to use that PHP artisan serve command. And I promise you, I've been mentioning that I will come back to these things. I will cover them. Artisan is awesome, and we'll find out why soon. So if we pass our PHP artisan serve as a command, quick shout out to anybody who wants to claim victory over this not being the right thing, but this will run. Oh. Kev shout out to say that we can build a custom Nord-Dev stream deck that will be better than Dom's. Kev, I think then we should do that with a nice little LCD screen or something. You can use the Pygame. Yeah, that sounds good. All right, so we've set the topic for Kev's next talk, building a stream deck for a tenner. Kev. So anyway, back to the thing. Command, PHP artisan serve. This is going to hopefully run that command once the image has got to that point. Scope creep in 10 seconds. We'll run that command and host our local host 8000 server for us. And the Docker image will notice that there's a long running process, and with a little bit of luck, won't just die. So we'll go back to our Docker, where our Docker Compose image is running. Control C in here will trigger it to start stopping. And we'll just wait. And it's only got to shut down one image, so that was fairly quick. It's shut down MySQL gracefully, and we're now back. And we've got 2 exited Docker Compose. All right, let's try that again. So I said you only need to use the up command at the start. So we'll take that off. And with a bit of luck, that command will still get run again. Who knows? We're about to find out. So it started them both. And we're back on our terminal because it's now running a demonized? I don't know. Daemonized. It's running in the background. It's running in the background now. So if we issue PS again, bam, 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 Hapalytics WW has died. So that's brilliant. Command is not the command that you need to run. So this is the point where either somebody bright jumps into chat and tells me what I need, or we go and look at one of my other Docker images. Oh, grief. Did not mean to dump entire. One second. So, somewhere in here is an image that I will use to grab the name of the command variable. There we go, Docker Compose, open with mousepad. Oh, brilliant. This one isn't. Hang on a minute. Two seconds. Sorry about this. Probably quicker to Google it at this point. Huh. Apparently it is command, but it's not a list. Aha. Yeah, I messed that up. Right, okay. So it should be a list, because I guess running multiple commands would be a bit weird. Don't know. Well, anyway, with a little bit of luck, this should work now. So, my favourite command at the moment, kill zoom. Yeah, with a little bit of luck, this is going to work now. So if we run PS, we're going to see the MySQL image is up, but the www image is not. If we ask Docker Compose to sort that situation out by saying start, it should notice that the MySQL image is up, ignore that, and boot up the www image for us. And with a little bit of luck, everything does not go wrong on the day. God damn it. Right, 1 second. Oh, it might be. Right, we'll see another side of things now. The opposite to up is down. The opposite to start is stop. The difference between stop and down is down will run the stop command, and then it will remove it fresh, ready for you to start it brand new again with up. And I think this might be the issue. It might be because it's already been built. This time, did you know? Ah, that is the issue. Right. This time we noticed when I ran the up, we didn't have to download the the Loris image again. We have created a brand new MariaDB, and what I'm trying to quickly scroll towards is, oh, where's it gone? There it is. We've got an echo out of our www server to say a Laravel development server has been started on 127.0.1.8000. So that's 127 localhost on the Docker image. We have exposed that port, and like I say, with a little bit of luck again, we should now begin to see that image come through on our web browser. So quick jump back to OBS and flip over to my Chrome image, Chrome panel, and we pop in localhost colon 8000. It doesn't load. Why? This is destined to happen. Just see the ultimate confusion on my face now as I try and work out why this image is up. It's routing my traffic from 8000 to 8000, but I get a reset, connection reset. No logs. Curious. Okay. Got any logs over here? No. Excellent. This is where I begin to sweat. Of course, it wouldn't work exactly as it worked the last 10 times I did this. That would be helpful. It's going to get ropey now as I just kind of start throwing commands out in the air. I didn't want to show you exec at this point, so we'll just ignore that I'm just running that at the moment and just want to just check that we're in there. Yeah. Server's running, image is up. Why is this not connecting? I'm genuinely at a loss there. Take a little bit longer there to shut down the www image. Just going to start and stop them. See whether or not they survive. Yeah. So it's running that PHP artisan serve, I think, because earlier we had PHP A running in here. The state is up. It would have died invariably if it was just running that console. We're on 8,000. What am I doing wrong? Definitely booted up on 8,000. It's not that that's the issue, I don't think. It might be though. What a nightmare. Beginning to blame it on random things like a switch from Wi-Fi to Ethernet a moment ago. Well, before the call. What a nightmare. Bear with me a moment. Apologies on this. What I'm going to do is, a moment ago I took a quick look at the one that I thought was running like this. You caught me. What I might just do is make this basically a little bit more complicated than I wanted to at this time. And that is to involve an actual Docker file. But I don't know whether that's going to help this situation. I'm not too sure what's causing it. Tell you what, if I boot up one of my other images, and we'll just see if that responds. That's a good idea, maybe. Problem is, what can I share? What can I share that's not private? Playground. Tell you what. Just had a genius idea, which is to launch the image for the old version of this app. It's not there, so that's the command you'll get when you run start when you haven't ever upped. FYI. It uses a slightly different image, the Bitnami Laravel image. Bitnami have got an incredible amount of... they're always production images, so they're designed perhaps to your Kubernetes or your Elastic, whatever it is, Elastic Container Service on AWS. So I tend to steer clear of them. This one, predominantly because it has got something called opcache, which makes it an absolute pain in development because it's caching all of your PHP. And it also does that for you, which is annoying. Alright. Apparently it's running on 3000. With a little bit of luck, it's not running on 3. Oh, Christ. So there's something wrong with our image. Excellent. Right, one moment. Sorry about this. Oh, handy command. If you're using ZSH, although to be honest, I think you could probably use this with Bash. There's an amazing package. I think it's a Python package called Jump or J, and it basically wraps your CD command, I think, and tracks where you go. And in order for you to be able to basically say J something, and it basically search through your list of where you usually go and look for a match. It's quite clever and jump all over the place. Anyway, why don't we use the Bitnami image for now? We'll come back to you in part 2 with a fix for this. I'm not too sure what's going on, and I don't want to hang about on this call messing around. So it's extreme. Yeah, my apologies. I've lost my windows up here. Everything's just falling apart. We're an hour and a half in, and it was fairly inevitable, I think. Right. Just getting the Bitnami Laravel image up. This is actually one that I contribute to, which is amazing. I don't use it very much. I just want the latest. That'll be fine. This one we need to do the same user stuff with. I don't know why I'm commenting out. User 1000. Basically need to do that with any image that shares a volume and also writes to that volume if you're on Linux. There are probably workarounds to it again, to this sort of thing. So right, we're going to map the volumes in the Bitnami image. It's not var ww, it's /app. And the ports are slightly different. I'm pretty sure it's going to be hosting on 3000, just like that image we just looked at. And again, we're going to need that link to MySQL. Alright, so we've got a slightly different manifest, different image again. Sorry, everybody. Next, we'll be covering Git, and I've run out of USB ports on my computer, which means I can no longer plug this thing in, which is the holder of my SSH keys. So you're going to experience as I try and work out how to use Git again without my treasure key. So that should be fun. Another yeah, fraught with danger, I'm sure. Okay, so .co-compose start, no, up, because brand new image, we've just downed it. Oh god, we're gonna have to pull a Bitnami Laravel image now. Oh, doing that, I guess I'll flip over to code screen and realise that you haven't been able to see anything I've been doing. So we just established this new container, a Laravel container, basically the same as our Loris container, but without this requirement. It actually does have Apache, I believe, set up. As you can see, they'll probably look on my face, but this dot is not a good sign. I think we just need to introduce a few of the environmental variables from here. In fact, actually, now I'm noticing that this is wrong. So we need to set up our database connection, because the Bitnami Laravel image is configured to basically run a whole host of Laravel stuff on first boot. So it'll try and migrate my database or our database and a bunch of other things as well. So we know that our host is MySQL. Our port is the normal 3306. Our database, well, we called it Hablytics. It's the one that's living on that MariaDB. And again, username I can't type today. Hablytics and Hablytics. In our environmental variables. And now with a little bit of luck, well, we should be able to get a Docker image running. No, fantastic. Bear with. I think again we're going to need to copy these into this Docker file. So where we have environment for here, pretty sure the same needs to be done here. Had this problem before with the Bitnami image where it doesn't seem to detect that is in env files on its first launch. Chat's gone quiet as you'll watch me completely fail to work with Docker. It's still worryingly quiet after me saying that. There we go. Thanks, Simon. So, you will have spotted in there that instead of it saying trying to connect to nothing, it's trying to actually connect to MariaDB at the... This is why, yeah, it takes some patience, Simon, I think, and perhaps some experience and knowledge wouldn't go amiss either. It is running. It has connected to MariaDB. It has also here run our migrations. Now again, something to be covered in a later session, or to be fair, probably this session. We've got 30 minutes on the clock. I'm now just checking. With a little bit of luck, this image is now running at 3,000. Oh, that is interesting. To 3,000. So I'm going to go over to Chrome, and can you guys see Chrome? No, you can't. I'm going to go over to Chrome. I don't know whether I want to show you this, to be honest. But we're going to open up localhost 3,000 and hit enter and see. Yes. See the Laravel launch page. This is the Laravel default installation page. I just looked up to see myself cheering above. Right, this is the Laravel default page. This is basically all you get out of the box. We get some pretty typography and a load of links, and the most important being the docs links. Now, I don't really explore far outside of the PHP environments. Who touched upon JavaScript environments and a little bit of Go and some Java for my sins. Laravel documentation is the best documentation. That's what I'm going to say. It's incredible. You'll struggle to. I mean, most of your answers will be answered on the Laravel documentations page. It's incredible. It has that overview of the directory structure that I was then talking about, which is probably a lot better than the introduction that I just gave you. And will guide you through every single part, including deployment, which I don't know whether that's often covered in a framework, to be honest. So, where to go from here? is a good question. We have our app running. We have our default view. Let's show you how that default view gets established and work from there. So in our, oh, I remembered myself that time to switch to the code screen. Sweet, you should be able to see it. In our Habalytics or our Laravel directory, we have sorry, just completely mind blank then. We have a roots directory, and within our roots directory we have 4 major definitions of what Laravel refers to as a root. So we have web roots, we have console roots, we have channels, and we have API roots. API roots are all of your API endpoints. Quite regularly wrap these in middleware. Again, we'll cover these words. Appropriate middleware. Channels is to do with your WebSockets and the broadcast and the echo package that we looked at briefly. Console is to extend the artisan commands. And it's an awesome feature. I'll cover it in a moment. We have used it a couple of times. We're using artisan at the moment to serve the website. And then web is our web root. So this is front end views. And you'll see we've only got one. We've got root get / welcome. And we're going to, function. And we're just going to return view welcome. Now this function here is a Laravel helper. There's a range of Laravel helpers. They in effect wrap facades, and again these are all words I will cover at some point along the way, along our journey. If you come along to the docs, and I think they're actually just in digging deeper into helpers, and we'll come across the most vast array of kind of Lodashy, if you're familiar with that, but these are loads and loads of helper methods and classes. So we've got the array class with a bunch of helpers, paths for getting any particular path. I touched upon mix at one point, which will give you the versioned final file that came out of Laravel Mix, which came out of Webpack. App paths and base paths and config paths are all your paths on your actual machine or on the server. String helpers, more string helpers, URLs, so similar. This will give you based for a user, so for a visitor, so it will be http : dependent on a app URL environment or variable that we will cover, and then a bunch of these miscellaneous ones, which are basically wrappers for facades, as far as I'm aware. So we've got the env and config one that we've used before. We also have this view one, which is what we're using right now. So we'll return a view instance. Pretty simple. What's a view instance? Good question. If we come into our resources directory, again, I'm just realizing I'm getting there now. I'm becoming aware when I need to change my OBS screen. So you should be able to see code again now. If we come into the resources view folder, you will find a views directory, and in your views directory you will find a blade template. This is our welcome.blade.php, and oops, I'm sure you've all put it back together now, but view is going in there and grabbing the welcome. It works with dots rather than /. So if we had something, for example, in a directory, and perhaps we'll call it utils.welcome, if we then move this to a utils folder and move welcome into it, so cut that and paste it in here. Excellent. With a little bit of luck, I haven't broken anything, and everything basically remains exactly the same. Yeah, refreshed. So the view helper helps us get a view from here. Excellent, excellent. Very simple, very simple. Cool. Trying to work out what, I mean, I've got 25 minutes left. The next port of call was to establish some really basic models. I think I'm going to check my notes now. Yeah. So my next, first port of call with an application is usually to start building up models. So your database. Models map to your database via an ORM called Eloquent, and it will allow you to define a model, a migration to go with that model. So a migration establishes the schema in your database that goes with that model, and then that model will be your entry point into that data. So let's explore that a little bit, and we'll go over to Chrome window, and I'll introduce you to a pretty I use this quite a lot, but it comes with some caveats. It's a website called laravelsd.com, and you can create it's a schema designer basically for laying out, well, for building schemas. So we will call ours Habalytics. If we create this, it's all very ugly. I think it's been changed in probably 10 years I've been using it. One moment, let's grab my password. Alright, what, did they actually create it? No, that was amazing. Habalytics. And you'll be given this beautiful screen. On this screen, we've got a bunch of tools at the top. Add a table, and let's call it user. The class for that user table, oops, lowercase u, is going to be user. And the model namespace, we'll leave it for the default, which is going to be app. We can pick a color, and we can select some initial features. So we will have an incrementing ID column, and we'll have some timestamps. We don't need the soft deletes. That's our user. And then I'll come along here and we will create our next level of this. So if we're thinking about a diary app, a journaling app, what does a user have at the top level? A diary, right? A journal. So we will create our diary table. Now, jury's out here. I don't know the answer to this. I pay someone sometimes, to some extent, change per project. It depends on how I'm feeling. But pluralizing and singular. I almost always call my models by their singular name. So it is a diary. It is a user. Tables. Some people will have including myself, a class, a singular class with a pluralized table name. So I have diaries in my table of diaries, and in each of those is a diary model. I tend to like to keep things fairly simple and keep those names similar. So I have been leaning towards basically singular table names, singular classes, and we'll cover namespace in a moment. Again, I'm trying to, slowly build the Tetris bricks together. And we'll make it green. We'll have an incrementing ID, we'll have some timestamps, and again we won't use soft deletes. Now soft deletes is basically we're deleting a row but by adding a flag. So delete the row with a deleted flag. That way you can restore it. You've also got audits on it potentially. You can see any deleted data. So it's pretty useful. A handy feature, and it's almost transparent. I think it is transparent to Laravel. So if you delete something, instead of it If you've got a soft delete trait on, then it will soft delete it rather than really delete it, and then any lookups will not include that item in it. Alright, so a user has a diary. A diary will have some entries, right? This is where we're going to get a little bit more complicated and also introduce some of the features of the app. So the app is a diary tagging app. It works on tags. You can attach a tag to a day or a time with a value. Those tags for either the complete wrong decision or perhaps not, but those tags are shared. I can't see who created one of those tags, but if that tag exists, then I will share it with someone else effectively. So, for example, the first person to create the tag of run will therefore be, well, they won't own the entry, but they will be the first person to create it and then attach themselves to it as many times as they like. The other issue with creating those tags is that you might want to be able to you'll want to attach to it several times. So we need to attach to a tag with some meta. So if we come along to Laravel and we dig into, is it going to be basics? Who knows? It's not the basics, it's the, oh, who knows? We'll get there at some point. Somewhere in here there's going to be, oh, there we go, Eloquent ORM. Down the bottom, very strange. Apparently I'm working bottom up. So this is an introduction to Eloquent. Like I say, the documentation is absolutely phenomenal. I would recommend at some point, at your leisure, you know, making your way through, maybe take it a section at a time. It's really good. Struggle to find better anyway. Within Eloquent, we can define relationships. Not sure how familiar everyone is with database relationships, but the simplest of relationship is a one-to-one. A user and a diary. One-to-one, perhaps. Yeah. And each of those would have an ID that they would perhaps reference. So the user has a user ID, the diary has a diary ID, and you take a track of those each side. So a user will have, we would mark on the diary that a diary has a user ID, and that would belong one-to-one. One-to-many is that the same concept, but you can have many diaries. Many-to-many? Can't think of a good explanation of that at this stage. What we're going to look for, though, in this particular instance, is a has many through. So if we click singular, this will allow us to establish a relationship with a matching table, a table in the middle. And it will allow us to take our diaries and have tags and have an entry in the middle. If that makes sense. Give us a shout if it doesn't make sense in the chats. But it will allow us to share the same amount of tags with whatever diary we like. So we will add our third major table, and that's going to be a tag table. Again, I'm getting the class name and the singular names messed up here. So lowercase for the, I mean, it doesn't really matter, I guess. It's just a convention. Lowercase for the table name of tag, and a capital T with tag for the class name. And again, I'll cover this at some point, but we're going to just pop app in there. And let's go with a third color of orange. All right. So we have our three major concepts. A user having a diary and a diary having tags. But we said we were going to do the tag via a pivot table or an intermediary table to allow us to not only attach multiple tags to the diary, but also attach any value to it. So we said that a tag could have like a number between 1 and 10, or any number for that matter, attached to it, a value attached to it, and that pivot table will be where that belongs. So I can't remember if I need to do that within Laravel SD now. I think I can establish it through here. Yeah. So we will click on our diary. We will click on a make a relationship button up the top here, and we give it a name. Now this is the function name as it will exist on the model, the method by which you would get it. So we are on the diary at the moment. So, and we're looking for tags. Do we call these events? Do we call them tags? Do we call them, what do we call them? The biggest problem in programming, and certainly a big problem for me, is naming things. So we are going to make a has many through, and we're going to say that we what would we call it? Let's look what I called it. I'm sure I had a good name for it at the time. I hate naming things. It always turns around to bite me as well. I always think of the best name at the end. All right. So what was I looking for? I'm looking for what I called it in a diary in the example. All right, found it. We just called them events. Seems a bit boring. Anyone got a good name for this? So it's the it's in order to get the events, the tags. I mean, events, I guess is the right name. It just sounds a bit boring. We're gonna go with events until somebody. I mean, this is the time to rename it as well. So we're gonna say a related model. It's going to be has many through. A related model is app user, and we will need to add the through model. So this will be our model that contains links the two with a value. So let's call it pretty simply diary tag. It's a tag on a diary. Diary tag. Diary tag. Maybe? Yeah? Possibly? Alright. Extra methods here. I said that the pivot table, the table that's going to be in the middle, that's terrible, Chris, is going to have details on it, right? It's going to have specifically a value. So we will ask, we will just pass through to, sorry, actually this should be with pivot. We will ask Laravel to grab us that value out of the pivot. Simon, you're not meant to encourage him. You're only encouraging terrible names like diary. If anyone's missed it, Chris has suggested diary cow. I mean, I'm tempted to call the thing diary cow now for the entirety of this and make you regret it, but I can't type it out over and over again. Diary cow, no. Right. Looking away from chat now and concentrating on this relationship for the last 10 minutes of this. And next, what the hell just happened there? I'm having a day for it today. Why is it linked? Why is it linked to user diary? Oh, jeez. I think it's because that doesn't. No, it doesn't. Has many through app you. Where's? Oh. Is that? It's because I didn't update that. That was my fault. That was a pepcac issue there. I'm blaming the software. Alright, so as it has many through, we now have established our diary and tag relationship. You can create the pivot table and create the values on that. No. We're not having just cow jokes in chat now, please. we should establish our relationship between our user and our diaries. So a user has many diaries, right? So we will say a user has many diaries. And that's going to be to the diary. We will check this use namespaces box. And we will tell it, or we don't need to tell it what the foreign key is because it will know. So it by default will assume that the foreign key on your other model will be your table name underscore your primary key's name. So in this instance, all primary keys are basically ID, so it will be diary underscore ID. All right, I think that's it. Yes, we'll add that. And why does it not look like it's created it? Oh, because I've again been a muppet. There we go. Right. So this is the very basic representation of the. I really annoys me that these don't automatically just become straight. There we go. This is a very basic representation of the app, the models that we're going to build. There are going to be quite a few models around these. We'll be having them pivot tables and stuff, but this is a really good way of describing and explaining, or just like kind of visualizing your application. And I find this sometimes helpful for sending to a client as part of a specification. Oh, for God. How does a cow get to the moon? It flies through udder space. Is this what it's going to turn into for the last 5 minutes? Just puns. All right. We can also, within this interface, add our columns. So let us do exactly that. A diary. Well, should probably have a name, right? A title, a name. A diary name is a little bit less formal. This can be varchar, sure. Default length, sure. Does it need to be unique? I don't think so. People can call their diary. There's not going to be a rush for it. It shouldn't be nullable. It should be always complete. It will, however, be fillable, and we'll cover upon this. Oh, come on. We will mark this field as fillable. It will allow us to mass assign to that column. So by default, when you go to create a model entity in Laravel, you can pass it an array with the with the initial values for everything in it. However, if those values are not fillable, they will not get filled. So we can mark many fields as fillable. Basically, pretty much most of your fields are usually fillable. There is an example. I thought of a good example, and now I've completely forgotten. Now that I'm on the call, I might remember. I'm going to put a note about it. Fillable. Metaphors. All right. And that will probably do us for a table, I think. For our diary, sorry. Drag that up above the timestamps. Timestamps are your created and updated at timestamps. Surely any field is filled. Right. Yeah, so I tell you what, there's probably the best way to go about describing it, and that would come from the world of taking input from a form field. So if you gave a user a form that would be able to create one of these entries from a new, then if you'd like to be able to just pass those form fields directly into a diary entity. That's fine, so long as the terms within that form are your fillable fields on the model. So you can kind of gatekeep fields in your model by protecting them, by not making them fillable, so they're not mass assignable. That way, somebody could not add, if you were doing that, they can't just add maybe a user underscore ID to the form, post that through, and somehow magically end up with a connection to something they're not meant to. We can, and we should, and we will validate those requests. Exactly, yeah, Chris. So if it's not fillable, you have to manipulate the input in code first. So what you would need to do is specifically mention it. So where I could go, for example, we've got somewhere I can write some code, maybe. Where we might say pass in a bunch of input into something. Say here's the entire blob of arrays, or the entire blob from the form request. It will then extract the fields that are fillable from that and assign them. Then after that, you could then take it and with object notation, just say this field equals this now. That's fine. You can do that within without that fillable attribute. The fillable attribute is just for filling a model. There is a fill command, for example, on a collection that will take an array and fill out those attributes with the ones that are in the array, basically. I'm not sure if that's the best explanation of what fillable is, but I hope it somewhat explains it. But it's an extra layer of validation almost. We will have validation on all of the endpoints to ensure that people aren't sending naughty things through and they're sending the required data. Even if they are sending naughty things through, to be honest, we'll mostly be ignoring them anyway. So yeah, that's the fillable attribute. And we have a name on a diary. I don't think we've got anything else. Maybe you could define a color. That could be quite nice to do at a later stage, but if we do that, we will do that at a later stage. Cool. Tag. Fields for a tag. What fields would we have on a tag? Surprise, surprise. We're back in the name area. This shouldn't be nullable. It should be fillable. And, however, on this one, it should be unique. And we shouldn't be able to create two tags with the same name. We're going to try and match them together, and keep just one entry for each thing. I mean, this is user input. We're going to get different spellings of things, and maybe a random space in the middle of the word or something along those lines. But this will kind of at least reduce some of that. So we'll add that. And again, drag it up above our timestamps. Just that's kind of a personal preference, really. I like my timestamps at the end of my row. Now I'm trying to think. I don't think we need any more fields. We've got basically name both ends, which is one of the most. I'm beginning to realise this app is a little bit boring. I think that covers us. I'm just going to stare at it for a moment, and I've just realised it's 2:30. So we might have just brought ourselves. That was a very long introduction to Laravel. I was hoping to get some migrations done today, but this tool, you'll notice there's an export button at the top right here. It is still designed for Laravel 4.2. We are on Laravel 8 release candidate last week. So we're on Laravel 8. We're currently using Laravel 7 something for this project. It is out of date. They haven't updated it, which is what I was mentioning a moment ago. However, the migrations and to some extent the model definitions, not only have they not changed much, what they have changed has been additional. It's all backwards compatible. So a Laravel 4.2 model migration and seed from a factory will work in the latest version of Laravel. So I think, like I say, we're at 2:30. That was a 2-hour rundown of Laravel, and we got stuck with Docker. I'm sorry about that. Next week we will be covering these in more detail. What I will do is I will make sure that there isn't any more additional fields that we need on this layer, and we will transform the models into migrations and create those migrations within the Laravel app. Once that's done, it's going to be a port of call for, to be honest, Git would have been a good port of call before this models, and would have been perfect timing, to be honest. That would have probably taken us the half an hour that I needed. So next week we will do migrations, followed by some Git, and I'm just doing this entirely the wrong way around now. Perhaps we will recover some of that time, go back to Git, go back to launching the app. Now that we have a working app here, perhaps we can get to a point where we want to see that on habalytics.com. I'm assured that there should be a coming soon. There we go. So perhaps we want to get that available on probably at staging.habalytics.com. We will go through the process of creating the pipelines. That leaves me with the question here that I did ask in Discord, but basically I'm easy how you want me to deploy this. I quite regularly use either BitBucket pipelines or GitHub Actions. I'm slowly moving to GitHub Actions. I'm not massively familiar with them. Pipelines is where I know it best. Sod off, Chris. Pipelines is where I know it best. Yeah, so pipelines to WHM, cPanel servers. I can do that via, it won't be FTP, as Chris is requesting. I'm assuming that's a joke. We will probably do it via SSH or rsync, SCP, there you go. So we'll use rsync because it's basically exactly the same as SCP. The difference being is it will actually diff. So rather than copying your entire app over the top of it again, rsync. Hey Rich, welcome to the. I didn't know you were there. Use MariaDB. Either that or Rich's suggestion is that I will post him the files on a floppy disk, and he will take on the DevOps role in this project. The snail mail of that floppy disk might slow us up a little bit. DevOps process is only 3 weeks long. It's all right. So yeah, basically it's your choice. Yeah, limited to 1. I wonder how large it is. Does anyone know how to enumerate the size of a directory in Linux? Linux size of a directory. I shouldn't imagine it will be that big, especially if we ignore the vendor directory. DU apparently, dir usage, I guess. DUSH. Okay. Can we fit the current Laravel project on a floppy disk? This is a ridiculous question. Not var. Dot. No. How many disks is that? Oh dear. So yeah, nice small app. Out of the box. To be honest, I think a significant amount of that will be the vendor directory. Right, yeah, amazing. So yeah, BitBucket pipelines, GitHub Actions, GitLab. What are they called? GitLab somethings. They've got a different name for themselves. Don't know, but the GitLab version of it. Or we can use one of the, and to a certain extent, and you can choose where that gets deployed. So how I deploy it, whether it's BitBucket pipelines, GitHub, or GitLabs, whatever there is, and where it goes to. So whether that goes to my, bulk standard cPanel WHM server, whether that goes to Forge, one of Laravel's hosting platform, Envoyer again. Those basically kind of manage. Envoyer is one of the two. Envoyer, I'm pretty sure, is the one that manages your own server. Forge is their servers. Or we can launch it to Vapor, and again, I think I'll need some significant requests for Vapor, because that's $45 at least a month. Plus one for FileZilla, Fast Host, Shared Hosting. Alright, so I can... we can do I host with Crystal. With a K. Who are Fast Hosts? I've heard of them. I think I've got a client that's got one of them. Yeah, I've definitely seen this before. I mean, if I must, I can host it on Fast Host, but that should be effectively the same as hosting it on any server. So as long as you've got SSH access, anything GitHub, Chris is saying. All right, so I'll leave you to chat about that. Simon, are you also a best web hosting, cloud web hosting Crystal person? Because I think I started as, can't remember what it was called the first time I signed up for their service, but it's had at least 4 names since then. But yeah, they're pretty epic. BitBucket pipelines are confusing, and GitLab is terrible. Fast Comet at the moment. BitBucket pipelines are much less confusing than GitHub's Actions, and I don't know whether that's just because I've been using pipelines for a few years, and Actions have just come out and they're new, and they're a little bit different, but they do seem to be fairly... Well, they just seem to be fairly different to almost all other kind of pipeline-based services. GitHub and Circle CI. Do you need the Circle CI section of that? You can just do it on GitHub now with Actions, right? The ominous moment, just sitting here waiting for chat. It's really weird. GitHub is pretty... Oh, I see what you mean. So push to GitHub and then use Circle CI for CI. Is Circle CI free? Is the first question. I'm pretty sure it's not. Oh, excuse me. It's moving my microphone out of the way of my monitor. Pricing. Come on. Free. 25,000 free credits. What's a credit? Run what? Anyone know what a credit stands for on Circle CI and whether I can use this for free? Because it says 2,500 credits that I use for services, for premium features like Docker layer caching. Premium feature like caching. Sounds like a strange place to be. Why is my laptop still making noises? Oh, I'm on Chrome. Yeah, okay. Well, anyway, like I say, I will leave it with you. Thoughts on a postcard, something along those lines. Drop a chat in, drop me a DM, send us a message. Package is fairly generous, Sean says. Alright, so Circle CI is on there as well. I'll repeat these with some like emojis or something on Discord so you can actually vote. And we'll go from there. We'll set up Git. So yeah, I guess next week set up Git, establish some pipelines to get the fairly simple app as it is deployed. and then we'll work on some migrations and models. Sound like a plan? Just weirdly waiting for a response in chat. Right, all right. I am moved to... Oh, for God, the cow jokes have come back. All right, no cow jokes next week. Okay. Well, like I say, apologies on the jumbled nature of that. The Docker obviously hampered our timings a little bit there, but hopefully next week we can just get straight into it. We'll use some kind of CI to deploy what we've got right now to the interwebs. All right. Well, thanks everyone. Oh my God. I thought Sean's comment was genuine for a moment there, and then I realised milked it. No. Right, yeah, anyway. Next week for other animal puns and more Laravel and Git, etc., etc. Now I need to find OBS and find the power button. There we go. Right, yeah, I found it. So, thank you everybody. Hope that was useful. See you next week, Wednesday, 12:30. Same time, same place.